Hey guys, this is Not Lammers and Invoked 101. Welcome back, and today we're taking a look at the much belated Gimmick Puppet deck profile. This was actually featured in the Gimmick Puppet Locals vlog, if you haven't seen that. And this took way too long to come out just because I got busy and I couldn't find one of the cards because no one around here had one. So it kind of came down to, do I upload it without the card or do I not? And then it just kept getting pushed aside. But I figured I'd put it up today because now I finally have a moment to actually talk about the deck. But before we get into it, down in the description, if you feel like backing the channel, there is a link to our Patreon, our Ko-fi, and our Teespring. So if you feel like checking out our merch and stuff like that, that's all, and supporting the channel, that's all down there. If you also want one of these awesome Invoked 101 mats, you can either message us on Instagram at Invoked 101, or you can do our $30 Patreon tier, as it is the reward for that, and we have mats with zones and without. But with that all said, we're going to move these spells, traps, and extra deck off to the side and get right into the main deck monsters. Starting us off, we have the level 8 Gimmick Puppet Bisque Doll. This is one of the new cards that came out of the Legendary Duelist set. Honestly, it's one of the best Gimmick Puppets too, because it lets you discard a Gimmick Puppet to special summon itself, and then you can banish it from your graveyard, and your opponent can't target Gimmick Puppets for the rest of this turn, which is pretty cool. But yeah, not a machine dupe target. And here's the card that caused me a bunch of problems, oddly enough. It was a Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby. It is a machine dupe target, which is the best part about it. And I actually ordered two of them back when I started building this deck in October. And then the guy just never sent them to me. And turns out he was a known scammer, which really sucks. Especially since it was on TCG Player. But my buddy Warren had one and he brought it for me. So he hooked me up with that, which was awesome. Anyway, this card on normal summon lets you target a Gimmick Puppet in your graveyard and then special summon it. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard, and your opponent can't activate cards in response to Gimmick Puppet monster effects this turn, which is pretty slick. And I think this actually works really well with the Gimmick Puppet of Leo, if I remember correctly. After that, we have Gimmick Puppet Humpty Dumpty, and this one is pretty cool. On normal or special, you can special summon a Gimmick Puppet from your hand, and then you can only use each effect once per turn, or this effect once per turn, and it has 0-100, so it's another machine dupe target, and it's a level 4, which is pretty awesome, especially for going second, which this deck really does want to do. And honestly, he doesn't look that bad in the viewfinder, but in person, this gold rare is ugly as all hell. It's just gross. Anyway, after that, we have 3 Gimmick Puppet Magnet Doll, and this says, if your opponent controls a monster and all monsters you control are Gimmick Puppet monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. So Magnet Doll isn't bad, it's just a nice little level 8 that special summons itself. Moving right along, we have the next Gimmick Puppet, which is Dreary Doll, another machine dupe target, and it's a level 8, and it says, if this card's in your graveyard, you can banish one other Gimmick Puppet monster from your graveyard, and then special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Dreary Doll once per turn, and it says, this cannot be used as an Xyz, cannot be used as a material for an Xyz summon, except for the Xyz summon of a Gimmick Puppet monster. Honestly, this is a pretty sweet card. It's super awesome, especially since you can get this into the graveyard pretty quickly. Yeah, just an overall awesome card. We do have one more monster who's not a Gimmick Puppet, and that is the Gear Spring Spirit. So this says, cannot be normal summon / set, must first be special summoned from your hand by only having machine type monsters in your graveyard, minimum 1 once per turn. You can target a face up monster your opponent controls, its attack becomes 0 until the end phase. This is a machine dupe target, but it can't be machine duped, which kind of sucks. It is a level 8, and it's basically a Gimmick Puppet. It's a dark machine that's level 8, and yeah, almost all the monsters that we play are machines. The only one that isn't a machine is Effect Veiler. And you can honestly cut the effect veilers for other stuff. I was thinking about playing a more pure Gimmick Puppet deck. If you have impermanences and you can play your impermanences, or even Called by the Graves, which realistically these should be, especially now that I have Called by the Graves spare, you will always have machines. I would honestly play Called by the Grave with effect veilers. The issue being I just didn't have as much Called by the Graves as I did when I built this deck. Moving that aside, we now can get into the spells and traps. And starting off, we have 2 Perform Puppet. This is another new card for the deck. And its effect says you can banish one Gimmick Puppet monster from your graveyard. All monsters you currently control become that banished monster's level until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. And then it says if a face-up Gimmick Puppet monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Gimmick Puppet monsters and special summon it. You can only use each effect of Perform Puppet once per turn, which is pretty okay. It's not the best card. It lets you level modulate, which is nice, but it's not the best. Now, the card that someone asked me recently what I thought the best starter card for Gimmick Puppets was, and I think it's Humpty Dumpty, but I really think it's Machine Dupe. Machine Dupe is awesome. Like I said, there's a bunch of targets for this. Dreary Doll is a Machine Dupe target, Humpty Dumpty's a Machine Dupe target, Baby is a Machine Dupe target. There's so many of them. So almost all the monsters we play are Machine Dupe targets, which is pretty slick. So you gotta play that. On top of that, most of the monsters we play are also level 8, so trade-ins are super mandatory. You can also play Allure if you really want some more draw power, but I think you're going to be banishing more than it's worth with that, especially since they're more useful in the graveyard, unless you pop the Perform Puppet. So yeah. After that, we do play some rank ups and I completely forgot rank up magics existed before I built this deck. But right now we're playing two quick chaos because we do have some number C's, and we do play Numeran Force to negate all the effects of other face up monsters, which is pretty slick. And that's coming off really weird in the viewfinder. But yeah, so these are honestly the two best rank ups for Gimmick Puppets. I wouldn't play any other ones. Astral Force doesn't work. These are what's really cool, especially the quick chaos, because you can just spit it out in the battle phase and do it, which is pretty awesome. After that, we play 2 Junk Puppet, which is a monster born for a Gimmick Puppet, but you can only activate 1 Junk Puppet per turn. It's literally just target a Gimmick Puppet, special summon it from the graveyard. And then 1 Monster Reborn to go alongside that as our Saki one of. So we do play 3 Reborn-like spells and then 1 Foolish Burial because of the Dreary Doll. Being able to Foolish Dreary Doll, it's pretty awesome. That is it for the spells. Going into the traps, we play 6. And that is 3 Puppet Parade. This is honestly one of the best traps for this deck. It's insane how good this is. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon Gimmick Puppet monsters with different names from your deck up to the difference. Then if your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can set a rank up magic normal spell directly from the deck. So that's already pretty insane. And it says for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppets. And then you can only activate 1 Puppet Parade per turn. This card is nuts, being able to sack out your opponent insanely. So if you have one dude and you set this, and then your opponent starts popping off, and they don't, and you can just mid thing summon a bunch of puppets, which is pretty awesome. The last card that I'm playing in the main deck is 3 Solemn Strike, because this deck does have a tough time dealing with other stuff, and I'll talk about that when we get into the extra deck. But yeah, 3 Solemn Strike just to snipe, destroy stuff and negate things, because this deck doesn't really build negates, as you're about to learn. So moving into the extra deck, because that's it for the main deck, we have 1 Gimmick Puppet Gigantes Doll. Gigantes Doll is pretty cool. It's a rank 4, needs 2 level 4 Gimmick Puppet monsters, and it says you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target up to 2 monsters your opponent controls, gain control of them until the end phase. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon except Gimmick Puppet monsters, nor declare an attack except with Xyz monsters. And it says you contribute this card, all monsters you currently control become level 8 until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Gigantes Doll once per turn. So basically what it does is it gives you a free Xyz monster by taking your opponent's stuff, which is pretty awesome, especially if you're able to, because you can spit out 4 monsters with this deck super easy, which means you get your Link monster, and you can probably get this. You snatch both your opponent's monsters, tribute this off, and then just make a rank 8 with their stuff, which is pretty slick. After that, I play 2 Gimmick Puppet of Strings, the number 40 guy. This guy's pretty okay. It says once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, place 1 string counter on each face-up monster on the field except this one. If you do, during your opponent's next end phase, destroy the monsters with string counters, and if you do, inflict 500 damage for each monster destroyed. After that, we do play his upgraded version, which is number C40, Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings. This one says on special summon, when this card is special summoned, destroy the monsters with string counters. If you do, draw a card, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the highest original attack among the destroyed monsters in the graveyard, your choice if tied. Then it says once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, place a string counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls. So, which is kind of pointless. These guys don't do anything going second. They don't really do a lot, which really sucks. And this guy really doesn't do anything unless you have a rank up magic, which also kind of sucks. Then we have 2 Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder into the number 15, and says it needs 2 level 8 monsters, and up to twice per turn during your main phase 1, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, target a special summon monster your opponent controls, destroy it. If it was an Xyz monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. And he has 1525, so he's pretty small for a rank 8. But then we have what I consider the best one in the extra deck, which is Gimmick Puppet Giant Hunter, and it says it needs 3 level 9s, but you just rank it up into it. And then it says once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, if it was a monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. I think this is honestly like one of the best Gimmick Puppet Xyz monsters, which really sucks because that's kind of it for the Gimmick Puppet Xyz monsters. There's Leo, but I didn't feel like Leo was worth playing because he needs 3 level 8s to summon him, and I didn't feel he was worth the investment to play. He's also not like super big either, so if you want to play something that's just huge in the extra deck, this guy has 3,000 attack and this one has 33. This guy has 25, but he gets the pop stuff. So it's really pick which Gimmick Puppet you think is the least worst. After that, for other Xyz monsters, I'm playing a Tornado Dragon, and I'm playing a Gear Gain X to search stuff. But Gear Gain X, these two honestly don't come up a lot, so... After that, for links, we're playing 2 Gimmick Puppet Chimera Doll. And so this is a Link 2 Gimmick Puppet, and it says, during the main phase, if you control this Link Summon card, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except Machine Xyz monsters. Also take 1 Gimmick Puppet from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Then, if all monsters you control are Gimmick Puppet monsters, minimum 1, you can special summon 1 Gimmick Puppet monster from your hand. You can only use this effect of Gimmick Puppet Chimera Doll once per turn. So yeah, so honestly pretty slick. It's kind of like a Soul Eating Oviraptor for the deck, which has become a more mainstream effect because they also put it on that one card, the train card. So yeah, pretty cool. It has 1500 attack, so it's not a weak Link 2. It's definitely like one of the it's like a mid-range Link 2 with the 1500 attack, which is nice. So yeah, that's that. And then we also play 1 Platinum Gadget for the special summon, and that's it. That's it for the deck. It's a pretty simple, just straightforward strategy of make a rank 8 and proceed to see what happens, because the Gimmick Puppet rank 8s aren't worth anything. Like, that's the sad part about the Gimmick Puppet deck, is that like their main deck now is so flush with swarming the board, but the main issue they have now is making something that's worth it, because they all lock themselves into, specifically like the extra deck and the spells and traps, lock them only into Gimmick Puppets, which is the big issue. So I feel like if Gimmick Puppets got like a rank 8 that had like a quick effect to do something on the opponent's turn, maybe like steal a monster, kind of like how the Gigantes doll does, or maybe pop something, or something along those lines, I feel like they could do something, but outside of that, they're not really going to achieve a lot. Anyways, tell me what you guys thought about this deck in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And while you're down there, feel free to check out the description where we have our Patreon, our Teespring, and our Ko-fi. So if you feel like supporting us, that is where to do it. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.